Hey y'all, this is OD from On the Air Sickle. Relationships can be difficult to maintain already as it is, while it can be an exciting journey of building and growing together with someone compatible. Throwing in a chronic illness such as sickle cell disease can make it difficult to sustain. Not just intimate relationships, but friendships as well. Join us tonight to talk about a topic that affects many dealing with sickle cell. Season 2, Episode 3, SICKLE-SHIPS. A discussion on the challenges of maintaining and finding relationships and dealing with sickle cell. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to On the Air Sickled. I am your host, OD. Thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the show that airs the good, the bad, the ugly in the name of awareness and advocacy. I present to you our Season 2, Episode 3 premiere of SICKLE-SHIPS. It is our relationship episode. And to add a little spice to the episode, I brought my lovely wife with me, Chardonée. And so we are going to be talking about relationships and not just intimate relationships, but friendships, the difficulty that sickle cell patients face when it comes to building relationships and maintaining relationships. I will say that for me, it has been a journey in trying to find friendships that understand exactly what I go through. That do not, they don't fear the fact that I have sickle cell or what's going to happen to me. Instead, they dive in and they'll pray for me or they'll support me. What I do want to talk about is how does it happen when other people get to know you a little bit more. Here's a quote from SICKLE-SHIPS.com. It says, "Finding a spouse or partner can be especially stressful for people with sickle cell disease. Different aspects of the disease can make dating more complicated. However, people with sickle cell disease are not inferior partners, and most dating problems are caused by the partner's lack of readiness and understanding. Healthy relationships can be a source of comfort and emotional support for people with sickle cell disease. Talking about the disease early and often with your partner is helpful. It can bring you closer to your partner and help you stay physically and emotionally healthy." So that's from SICKLE-SHIPS.com on their topic of dating. So Chardonée, my lovely bride, how are you there?
Okay.
She's nervous, y'all. She has never been on the Air Sickled, so this is her first time. So this is so cool because I get to embarrass her. I love
That's
you.
what we're doing.
So listen, as you can see, we are on two opposite sides of the playing field here. Washington Commanders, Chicago Bears. My wife is originally from Chicago. Baby, can you share a little bit of our story, how we met, what your thought process was when you found out that I had sickle cell disease?
Okay, well, shoot. First of all, you're going to be embarrassed your own self.
Okay.
So let's be very clear about that. But I think we met December 27th of 2019. He reached out to me on Facebook in this group that we were in. I forget the name of the group, though. Was it?
It was like Pursuing Christian Professionals or something like that.
Yeah, Christian Professionals Dating. And I got irritated with it. And on my way out the door, he was on his way into my inbox.
Literally, y'all. I snuck into them DMs, okay?
And I blocked him. I blocked him with a quickness. I was like, nope, we're not doing that today. But I think after maybe about 4 or 5 times of blocking and unblocking, because Facebook had a policy back then to where you could not delete any messages of people that you were talking to previously unless you unblock them first and delete it. And then you could not reblock for 72 hours. So I went through that whole cycle for a good minute. And then finally, you came back with something that was extremely personal to my faith and came out of the works with it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, who are you? What do you want?
Yes.
So that's the beginning.
So in my introduction to Chardonée, I basically, let her know, hey, look, I'm a minister, I have kids, I'm previously divorced, and I have sickle cell disease. And I think that it's important that you start the conversation off with letting people know, hey, look, this is where I am as a sickle cell warrior. This is my challenge. Because if they're going to join in a pursuit of building and growing in relationships with you, they can't, be afraid of it, right? They have to prepare for the unexpected. And what I love about my connection with Chardonée is Chardonée is a nutritionist. And so she was able to kind of utilize some of her skills to help me in my challenge. And that was difficult. It was humbling. It still is a extreme process. But what I love about it is that there's a balancing act there. I still have the strength to say, listen, this is what I'm feeling. This is my pain. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm struggling with. And she's patient with me during those episodes. And she will jump in when she can, and she'll say, hey, take this, eat this, so that it'll help build up, your immune system. It'll help, lower the inflammation. So she brings all of these beautiful benefits to our relationship and to our marriage that I didn't have in prior relationships. In prior relationships, it was, more of, I can't handle this, and what do I do? And when those times happen, I kind of need my partner, my wife to just step in, and just, I don't have the strength to really communicate like I would like to, because I'm in so much pain. And so with that being said, I do want to bring in our special guest for our relationship topic. Our special guest this evening is Miss Latiffa Bryant. And Latiffa Bryant was sought out by our production team to join our show on relationships, because we wanted to talk about this not just from our perspective, but also from another warrior's perspective. Latiffa is a mother. She is a sickle cell warrior, and she's here to join the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Latiffa Bryant. You are live on the air. Hi, Latiffa. How are you?
Hi, you guys. Hi, how are you? I was muted.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I was excited when I heard you saying that your wife is a nutritionist, because one of the things I wanted to add to the show was that just something changed in my life the past 3 years. When I first came on, I told you my son died. After my son died, I started, I was in pain a lot. For some reason, my sickle cell started going downward in a way that I didn't like. So I actually started looking for more natural ways to deal with things. And I'm happy to say that today I have 2 children with sickle cell disease living. They have never had a crisis, and they also have never been introduced to any narcotics. And how I've been able to do that is all natural.
Wow.
Yes, how I've been able to do that is all natural.
It is possible. So that's exciting to hear that you're using, natural approaches to dealing with your health as well as with your children's health. And I want to dive a little bit more into how, your children came about. So you have the disease. How did your significant other or your husband? How did that come about?
Cause like you, I never spoke about my sickle cell to people previous before him, and I felt like some of it had to do with comfortability. A lot of it had to do with just people not understanding. And I'm sure, like a lot of others, you do come across certain people who just don't want to deal with it. And as soon as they hear the word disease, they run, not understanding. But what was different with Robert, who was my fiance, what was different with him was that when I decided to tell him, he had already known somewhat about it. How he known about it was because his father had it.
Wow.
So I want to say in times where that would have been a bad thing, it was a good thing for me because he was able to understand me and he never like ran away. Even when things became hard, he still stuck around with me. And I appreciate that because for so long in my life, my dating was like hit and miss, shut and go, to where it was like I wasn't even looking for nobody when he came about. When he came about, we were friends. He didn't know I had sickle cell. I didn't know his dad had sickle cell up until we started actually getting into a relationship.
Wow. So you have the full blown disease. Does he have the trait?
Yes, he does.
Okay. All right. And I'm glad that, this is something that I did not know about, which I'm glad that we'll find out about this on the show and that it is live so that people can actually
Go out
see
there.
the interaction. Because what I want to do is talk about, the genetics of, the importance behind why we kind of keep the information to ourselves and why we're hesitant about sharing it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring this up on the screen here. This is the genetic makeup diagram that that you can find online. But basically, what you're looking at is the image of two individuals that have sickle cell trait, and basically, as you see this, there's a potential for several things to happen. The individuals with sickle cell trait can produce a child 1 in 4 chance of having either the disease or no trait and no disease, or 2 in 4 chance of having the trait. Now, what I'm not showing is like situations like Latifah and myself, where okay, you have an individual who is full blown with the disease, and in our situation, my wife, who has no sickle cell trait or disease, we would produce someone with the sickle cell trait. Latifah, in her situation, produced children with the sickle cell disease, where she has the full blown disease and her fiance has the trait. So basically, it's important that we educate ourselves on the fact that on the fact that hey, what is it that's in my system? What is it that I'm carrying? And is it worth making the decision to move forward or to kind of keep to yourself? And that's a personal decision. For me, it was I didn't want to be with anyone who carried the disease or the trait or anything like that, because I didn't want to risk the chance of having someone like me. Like I could just imagine being in the hospital next to my child, and we're both having a sickle cell crisis. And I want to talk a little bit about that scenario with you, Latifah, in your decision and how you move forward. Like you talked about how you didn't have to really explain yourself much, which was a benefit to being with someone who understood the disease. You talk about how your children are a product of being a sickle cell warrior. How was that for you, to that when you gave birth you realized, oh, my child now has sickle cell disease?
Well, for me, like it's always been a thing of I had to find a way. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want my children to live life the way I did.
Sure.
And for some reason I just always felt like there was another way. I just didn't know it. I always felt like there was another way. I just didn't know it. So in our situation with me and my family, I had it. I've been on the pharmaceuticals, I've been on the opioids. I see what a life like that can do and what battles you face with that. So for me, it was just like, let me put my head back into the books. Even though I knew so much about sickle cell, I still didn't know what herbs I should be using. I still didn't know how would I completely change my lifestyle and things I was doing for the better. When it came to my children, I decided to see a herbalist. I saw a herbalist. I explained my situation, and they were basically explaining to me how I should start. And like I said, I already knew how what pharmaceuticals did for me. So I wanted to try a different route for my children. And it just so happened that the route that I tried actually worked.
Yeah.
And I thank God for that
And
because I don't know what I would do if it didn't, you know?
mm, yeah,
Because like I
yeah.
said, I didn't want to be with nobody who had sickle cell, but I also have never loved or been so connected to someone the way I am with my fiance. Like I've never been so comfortable in my whole life with nobody. I've never been so open in my whole life with nobody. So for me, even though I had sickle cell, it was worth a try for me. It was worth a try for me because I had with him something that I didn't have with nobody else.
Hmm. Hmm. And how old are your children?
My daughter's 4 and my son is 6.
Wow.
Wow.
4 and 6 years of not having to be admitted into the hospital with, you know, narcotics, which is amazing. That's amazing.
Not at all,
And
neither
I
one
want
of them.
to, compliment you on the boldness that you took to say, I love this man and we're gonna make it work. And I don't know what it's gonna look like, but it's just one day at a time. And like you said, your decision has helped you and has ultimately benefited your children. I thought that this was really great that you had this situation because I'm the type of person where I have read, about people who've had children with sickle cell disease, and there's been a lot of conflict, a lot of people on both sides of the table. Love is what it is, right? So you do what you are going to do regardless of who it is, right? But then other people who are like, no, they will bash people with sickle cell for making the decision to move forward and build a relationship with someone who has sickle cell disease or trait. Was there any conflict that came about your decision to move forward in relationship with your fiance?
Well, you saying from the sickle cell community, I've always been bashed, especially when I started to make the decision to go to herbal. Um, I started advocating about it more, started getting in more sickle cell groups, and what I found in these groups that whenever the conversation surrounded the decision I made or my feelings about narcotics, it was always I would always get bashed because I feel like in the sickle cell community, a lot of people, oftentimes they feel like we should have each other backs. But I feel like a part of having each other backs is being truthful and talking about the things that are hard to talk about and talking about the things that people don't talk about, the things that people do hide. Because I do believe in the sickle cell community, we talk about a lot of stuff, but there's also things that we hide. And here I am, this sickle cell person who has walked a path where I have hid certain things and now I'm coming out with it. And there's other people feeling the same way I felt once, like they just not ready. And I feel like I'm just going to continue to talk about it. I'm not worried about, the bashing and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that takes strength. What was the transition for you to say, what, I'm secure in myself and I'm secure in my decision, and I am gonna take this mantle and push forward in spite of people and their opinions?
Because I knew what life was like already before I made the change, So I knew I knew what life was like since I was born, having it and going through things. So I feel like for me it was always worth let me try it this way and see how it goes. Let me try it that way and see how it goes. Because here I was, us with sickle cell, we don't want to be on narcotics, but sometimes we're in that situation where we're forced to be on it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like in that space, we battle with ourselves. We beat ourselves up a lot. You know what I'm saying? In that space of, being on narcotics and just not wanting to be on them. I feel like because I knew what that was like, I was on it. I wanted to see what would it be like if I didn't have my children using narcotics and I tried this herbal way and, just to see what happens. Say hi. This is my son.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Say hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. How are you? Good. What's your name?
What's your name?
Robert. Nice to meet you, Robert. I'm OD. Nice to meet you. I have sickle cell too.
Nice to meet you. He has sickle cell too, honey bun. Like us.
We're all in the same family. Nice to meet you, Robert.
Go ask Dad to help you. Go ask Dad to help you. I don't want to break it. Daddy don't know. I don't know how either. I don't want to break it. He
That's
does
amazing.
know how. Go ask.
Latiffa, and thank you for giving him that moment. I think people need to see that. That was beautiful. I could not pay anyone to do that. That was awesome.
That was real. That's what it's supposed to be. Like you were saying, people hide so much of what the truth really is, and it's like sickle cell patients can still be parents as well. They can still tell folks, go sit down over there, be still, go watch your show.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for that attention.
And it can be very beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That was
and I still
beautiful.
don't regret it. I still don't regret it.
That's awesome. How has your health been?
Oh man, horrible. When I was young, it was really, really bad. As I started growing up, things started getting easier. But then for some reason, it went back to that, like after I had the kids, for whatever reason. Now I'm in this space where I have avascular necrosis, so that's been kicking my butt. But besides that, I'm doing okay. Besides the avascular necrosis, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, and the avascular necrosis, that will definitely be one of those things that just keep on coming your way. you're like stop, enough is enough,
and
I'm
just afraid of the surgery. I'm afraid of the surgery for whatever reason. I'm afraid, what if I don't recover? And I have kids. I want to be able to still run behind them and stuff like that. And my biggest fear is to not be able to do those things, you know?
Sure, sure. Where's the vascular necrosis?
I have it in my shoulder and in both hips.
Okay, okay. I have it in my hips, so I relate to you in that aspect.
And the
I've
hip
never
is more
been.
painful than the shoulder.
Oh wow, yeah. I've never been um asked to have the surgery yet. Not from what I can remember.
Nope, and we're not doing it.
And I don't want to do it either. You know, I do a lot of walking as it is at work. So I'm grateful to God that my health has not jeopardized my workspace. You know, COVID was a big threat. COVID was a scare. But for the most part, I have been, you know, since I turned 18, you know, I worked in a restaurant. I
Did you
worked
get
in
COVID during COVID?
insurance. Say that again.
Did you deal with COVID during COVID?
I did. And you know what's interesting is I got it at like towards the end. I went 2 years,
Oh
no
wow.
COVID.
In
And
the
then,
health industry.
yeah, I work in the health industry and I got it at the end. Yeah, yeah. It was
Oh wow.
definitely a battle. I was in the hospital for
27 days.
27 days. You know, yeah,
Goodness.
not knowing.
That must be hard.
I thought that was going to be the time that, you know, it was time for Otmar to go. Um, but I was able to make it through. I had maybe about 3 or 4 months where I wasn't, you know, at work, you know, physically at work, and I had to build my strength back up at home, and then, you know, my wife nurtured me back to good health. It was a challenge. It was a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure, um, do you ever look at her? Because I do. I look at my husband a lot of times during the times where I'm sick, and I say, my God, I remember the times where I didn't have this. You know what I'm saying? Like I just, you know what I'm saying? And it helps us to appreciate them more. You know what I'm saying? Because there's been a time when we didn't have no support at all. It's been a lot of times where you walk into that hospital examination room. Once you close that door, it's just you up until that doctor come in, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that helped me to appreciate him more, you know? And now a lot of times he
Absolutely.
understand when I'm in pain or something going on. He see me walking a certain way. He like, you all right? You need to go lay down. He's always, you know, right there showing me that he right behind me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I do appreciate you, baby. I do. Um,
Okay.
because I have been in relationships where the thought process was you're going into the hospital again, you know, or the thought process was I need you to fight, but it wasn't in that cheerleader type, you know, I need you to keep fighting, keep going through this. It was we're not going to the hospital. You know, I've been in that relationship. And that was difficult. Um, in some ways, it did kind of help build my strength, but it was unhealthy. Because when I needed to make the decision to go, I should have went. You know, and so it put me in a position to wonder: is now the time that I need to go? Do I have permission to leave my home? You know, um, those types of encounters
Wow.
made being in relationships for me personally hard as a warrior, hard as a man, and as a father. Chardonnée is you know my second wife, of which you know we don't have children yet, but we are praying to God for that, and I just believe that this is the journey that's going to lead to a more healthy stance when it comes to raising children. And it's just one of those things that I do think about every day is what can I do better today and how can I show my appreciation more? It is it hard? Is marriage hard? Absolutely. It's beautiful, but there's never a time where I sit back and I realize, I have my limitations, but I have a partner who's gonna fight the doctors for me when I can't fight for myself. I have a partner in this fight, who is gonna cheer me on appropriately. I have someone who unfortunately likes the Chicago Bears, but we're on the same team,
You know what? See,
And she does not. She does. You could tell she doesn't never miss the shade. She does not. Never. She is catching
Here's the
it.
thing: sickle cell is a stress-based disorder, and people with sickle cell have to reduce that. And even if you're in a relationship with somebody with it, you have to understand that you have to try to keep the stress as less as possible. Now, what he just did is just cause a little bit on me. So he's going to feel that heat a little bit later. But for him, I have to try to keep stress off of him as much as possible. So even in hearing him say like, hey, I appreciate you, sometimes that's what I need to get to keep going. Because it's like, oh, Lord, this is hard. I got to take the dog out. I got to go get the kids. I got to do this. I got to go grocery shopping. I got to cook dinner, make sure that he's okay.
I started realizing that myself with my husband. I was feeling like I started realizing that in my own relationship that I need to tell him I appreciate him more. And just probably a month ago, I had told him I appreciated him and I took him out and everything. And he was so happy. And in that time, it showed me that how much more he needed that extra, I appreciate you, babe. It showed me what a difference it made for him, because for us as the warriors, we don't understand. Sometimes we understand it, but we don't understand how consistent base it needs to be. Same way how we need them to be consistent when it comes to when we're feeling some type of way or we need the extra support, we need to also be consistent based with the appreciation, because it is hard for them. And my God, it must be a lot for them at times where we're in pain and they have to pick up that extra slack and for those days, they need almost like a battery. For those days, they need to know you appreciate them. You know what I'm saying? So those days are stronger. And I started seeing that more in my relationship. So I will start myself being more consistent, And I
want
realized
to
how
talk
much
to
more it's
you a little
needed.
bit, babe, about what was it like for you to witness my first crisis?
Oh my gosh. That was one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever had to go through in my life, other than, because God prepared me. I was a caregiver before I even, really got into a relationship with you. But I think it's like seeing your eyes roll back like that. I'm like, what in the world is going on? Do I need to call 911? And you refused because you thought I was going to see you less than. That part hurt me more than you being just in the pain on the floor in the living room. You would not let me call 911. You're like, I got this. I'm like, no, you don't. You sitting up here, you're in pain. I'm like, what do you mean? You're like, I just want some water. You're going to get your water and you're going to get the ambulance on top of that and everything else that you need, because I don't know what in the world is going on. Yeah, and at the time, I didn't know as much about sickle cell. Like, I was dealing with my grandmother with dementia at the time. So I was like straight focused on dementia and got to do this for her, that for her. And then you come with the sickle cell and I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing? This is how oh no. I was not, I was more so afraid of the circumstances surrounding who you are than I was of the sickle cell, if that makes any sense. I was more afraid of becoming a stepmom, having to deal with the stuff that goes with that, having to deal with somebody who was married previously and all of that. I was more afraid of that than I was of the sickle cell, because I knew that any disease, any dis-ease in the body can be rectified in some way, form, or fashion, or at least the symptoms of it can be lessened in some way, form, or fashion. And that I can do. All that other stuff, I was like, oh, Lord, you're going to have to give me the strength.
Because it took me a while to see that every disease, there's a way, sort of where there's a will, there's a way when it comes to diseases. But firsthand dealing with the sickle cell and us being in so much pain a lot of times, and because we've been introduced to these pharmaceuticals, a lot of times it's almost like when you do get into a crisis, you feel like ain't nothing else gonna work, you know? And I feel like
Yeah.
that is one of the things that put us warriors in a space where we kind of develop this relationship with the narcotics. And I feel like we all needed that, how you say, we all needed that, we all needed that lecture where, you know, there was other ways. And I think like it was for me, for a lot of sickle cell patients, because we were introduced to the pharmaceuticals, that's all we knew, you know? And I'm
Sure.
happy that for me it's not that way, because now my kids can live differently. You know, my that was always my promise to my fiance and to my children, because they ain't asked to be here. And it's bad enough I knew I had sickle cell and I brought them into this. So my number one goal was always, you know, I brought them here, so I got to figure out a way so they don't have to deal with this the way I did. I got to just figure it out. And I'm glad by the grace of God that I was able to figure it out and it's actually working, because like I said, I was a non-believer because I was introduced to pharmaceuticals very early on. I was very much a non-believer. I was.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I wanna I think we lost
her.
her.
Oh
Let's see. Well, let's get to the Q&A. Let's see. Are there any questions in the chat box? All right, my team is saying no, there's no questions. Okay. All right. Well,
do you have any questions for me?
You know,
just to give you that little bit of spark.
You know, I guess my thing is, when it comes down to, you know, being in a relationship, like I said in the ad, it's already difficult enough trying to get to know a person and know their past and know their expectations or where their mindset is. But to add a chronic illness on top of that, I can only imagine how, you know, like Latiffa said, how the individual who has to be in partnership with you must feel. I guess my thing is when you are witnessing my pain and I'm in the hospital bed and you're sitting at my bedside, what's going through your mind?
Everything else at home, because at the end of the day, we have to also learn that God and the medical professionals are going to do what they're supposed to do. Sometimes they don't, and that's when we do have to step in and advocate. However, if we go in knowing exactly what needs to be done and we let them know ahead of time, I'm like, okay, I can count on the doctor to do this, to give you the right fluids, to give you the right medications at what time, and all of that, so we can get out as soon as possible. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about harmony. I'm thinking about, do I need to go get the boys food? Do I need to go do this? Do you need your clothes done for the next day? And all of that. I'm thinking about everything else with the house, because I have learned to just put my trust in God at the end of the day, and also know that by the time we get home, I can still take care of you the way that you're supposed to, body-wise, as far as like internally is concerned. I know exactly what to do. I know to get you the alkaline water, the chlorophyll, and some of the other herbs that I give you, just to help reduce some of the inflammation that comes along with it. And we just keep it quiet, and turning on the worship music, setting the tone and the atmosphere is huge. Huge. So I think I've gotten to a place where it's now like, okay, he's going to be okay. He's going to be fine. If we hit a snag, that's when I'm like, okay, wow, listen, well, like, get it together. However, I think God has given me the grace and the peace to just say, okay, he's going to be fine. This is a little itty bitty bump in the road. He's going to be fine. He's going to be back home. We can do this. We can do that. We can do whatever we have to do so we don't end up here and we're learning something new every single time we end up going. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how I feel now versus before. I'm like, is he going to live till tomorrow, Lord? Like, what's going on? But I can't keep living in fear, and neither can you, because you will take that fear and you will escalate it when you're in pain. And that's just not just you, but anybody at the end of the day. It escalates due to your environment. Either you're going to have peace in your environment and that's going to go up, or you're going to have negativity in your environment and your stress levels are going to go up. Yeah. So it's more so about keeping that peaceful atmosphere.
Bring us into, the season is changing, and Chardonée and I were just talking about how, there are several warriors who are in the hospital right now, and COVID is coming back. There's different variants and everything like that. I want to get back to that discussion about COVID. Walk us through your thought process when I was in the hospital. Latiffa kind of mentioned it earlier when she said, as a warrior, we're in pain, we're admitted to the hospital, that door closes and it's just us and the room. But I want to kind of flip that. What was going on in your head? What was going on in your mind? Because you couldn't come into the hospital because I had COVID.
Rage. I was mad. I was mad because I know how you got COVID. I know how you ended up in there. I know the scramble that we had to get you to the hospital all together. So it was just absolutely not. I was so upset because to know the circumstances behind how you even got there, that's what made me upset the most. But then to know that doctors will sit up there and dismiss your pain. You're sitting in the emergency room in a room without a call light for 13 hours. Yeah. And your phone dies. Yeah. And I'm trying to reach you. And I'm calling the nurses station and they got an attitude with me. And I'm like, I'm about to come up there. I'm not a rude, ignorant, or evil person. But when it comes to you, it's a whole nother ballgame. Mm-hmm. Don't mess with who I love, what surrounds me that I take care of, because you don't know what my life is like at the end of the day. But now you're playing with his life. And then when the doctor told me that they didn't know how to take care of your sickle cell and the COVID at the same time, that was a wrap.
Yeah, that was shocking.
Was a wrap for me. It's like, okay, you are a hematologist and you're telling me you don't know how to treat. Okay, explain to me how that could even be. Oh, well, we deal with cancer patients more than we deal with sickle cell. So you're telling me in this area, because we live in a predominantly white area, and that's fine. However, if you're going to be in healthcare, you need to know how to treat everybody, all races, all backgrounds. And that's just, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you came from. Know how to treat anybody that walks through the door. And if you don't know how to do it, find somebody that does. Because there was no way you should have stayed in the hospital for 27 days. There's no way I should have to take you out of there and drive 2 hours to Baltimore, and then night and day difference over a 13-hour period, 14 hours. That after I took you out of said hospital and we went all the way up to Baltimore, within 14 hours, you were better because they knew what to do. And funny enough, the area that we went to was what? Predominantly what?
African American. So my message in that aspect is, the diversity, the education. I mean, this is why On the Air Sickled is here. And I understand that we have Latiffa back with us, and we'll bring her on in just a moment. But I want to make sure that we understand that the idea that most people are uneducated about what sickle cell is. That it is, the black man's disease. Sickle cell disease is a blood disorder. And so with that being said, it doesn't matter the race. It doesn't matter your heritage. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's important to research where it originated from, but do not isolate sickle cell disease as just an African American disease. There are sickle cell groups in which Caucasian people have noted that they struggle with sickle cell disease. Asians have noted that they struggle with sickle cell disease, and I think that it's just important that we diversify, if that's even a word, the idea that all persons have the unfortunate opportunity to get sickle cell disease. So let's bring Latiffa back on as we're closing the show. I want to bring her back on to the screen. Hey, Latiffa, we lost you there. Glad you joined us back.
Yes.
Welcome.
Oh, you know it, right back.
So Latiffa, I want to talk about, and I had got Chardonnée's perspective, but have you ever asked your fiance, what goes through his mind when you are in that hospital bed and he's dealing with, the children and, the bills and everything like that, knowing that you're in the hospital? What goes on through his mind?
Well, he told me for him because even when he's home, I have a set of things. I don't know if you guys have it like that in your household where you say you guys don't have any kids yet, but in our household we have kids. So I have a set of things that I might do on the daily with the kids and for the family, and he has his things. So for him, it was like, is she gonna come back? And if she is gonna come back, when is that going to be? Because I I do the nurturing, I do the food, I wash the kids' clothes, I prepare their clothes for school in the morning. He does the drop off, he does the pickup. So for him, it was like, he also doesn't trust doctors. He has this thing where he doesn't trust doctors. He lost his mom and his dad in the medical field where people were saying they knew what they were what they had to do and what needed to be done, and then they wound up dead. So he don't trust them to begin with. So there's always a fear when I go in the hospital. A lot of times I have to tell him, like, well, it ain't one of those crises this time, babe. I think I'm being in and out of this one. And sometimes I gotta kind of coach him on what I'm thinking so he don't have to, get, I don't want to say blow it out of the proportion because it is a big thing. I just don't want him to get stressed in the way he don't have to, just knowing I'll be okay. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Well, Latiffa, this is the part of the show where we would normally do Q&A. There was no questions in the chat. However, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk to the audience and give them a little bit of inspiration dealing with the topic of relationships. Anything that's on your heart, this is your opportunity to share.
I say go for it. For so long, me being somebody with sickle cell, like I said, for those of you who didn't hear me in the beginning, I was saying how when I first got into the dating field, I, like I said, never brought it up. A lot of times hid it. And it was for several reasons. For the people that I did give enough respect to let know what was going on, they didn't understand or was just very ignorant to the point where they weren't even willing to learn. They just hear disease and they head for the hills. And in their defense, I understand, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I don't deserve to be loved, and it doesn't mean that there's not somebody out there for me. So just knowing that and learning that, at the point where I learned that, I just was like, you know what? When I am dating, I ain't telling nobody. I ain't got to, unless I feel like I'm going to set my life up with you and I see us going somewhere. I'm not going to say nothing. And I feel like, what if you don't turn out like me and you find somebody and you're that lucky to find somebody? Do you want to keep waiting? Do you want to make it to where it's like, oh, what if I did say something? There is somebody out there strong enough, and I do believe that there is somebody for everybody, no matter what situation you're in. And I say go for it. And the moment you guys decide that you're close enough where you can be intimate, you close enough that you can talk and have that conversation. And I would have it sooner than later, so you're not wasting your time. Period. Sort of like making a decision to marry somebody. You also got to make a decision if you're going be with somebody with sickle cell, or if you're going to be with somebody and allow them to have you being the warrior. They need to understand the sickle cell and need to be able to deal with it. And if they're not a candidate, then they're just not a candidate. You move on. But my suggestion is don't hide it. Don't feel like you need to wait. I feel like the conversation should be out there, and so we don't have to waste our time. I always felt like I don't want to waste my time keep telling somebody I have sickle cell. I don't want to keep wasting my time doing that, and then we wind up breaking up anyway. So what I say is tell them, and if they're ignorant enough not to learn, see you later, bye. Next. Because it don't make no sense waiting 4, 5, 6 months to tell them and now they leave. Tell them, go for it, because it's going to help you not to waste your time with anyone else or waste your time just with the wrong people.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Go herbal.
And go herbal. Latiffa, thank you so much for joining our show. It was such an honor talking to you.
One thing I also would like to leave with the show.
Sure.
You guys look up Healing Blends Global. I think all of us as warriors should look up Healing Blends Global. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and they are on Google. And they have an herbalist talking about all the medications and what they do. Right about now, I swear by it. I know there's warriors who have children and they just want to know a different way. Healing Blends Global, like I said, I swear by it. I love it. And both of my children have been on it. And so far, so good. They have never been introduced to a narcotic or have so much as had a crisis where they had to be in the hospital.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Latiffa. Hey, Latiffa, we're going to put you in the green room and just sit tight for us.
Okay.
Hey, guys. So you have been listening to On the Air Sickle. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us for this topic, because there are so many people who are just unsure. Do we pursue what our heart is leading us to do, or do we step back? Ultimately, the decision is going to be with you, the warrior. It's going to be with you because you have to live with that decision. So if you are interested in joining our show, you can follow us on the Air Sickled on Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube. You want to share your story, you can always share your story by going to our website at www.ontheairsickle.com. And I always want to share our mission and our vision. So our mission is to spread awareness, right, of sickle cell disease, put the voices of the warrior out there. In doing so, it supports our vision, right, to which is threefold, which is to pursue in supporting sickle cell research, and then also to keep On the Air Sickled active and flowing and growing. And then as well, lastly, to ensure that we can go and produce our On the Air Sickled Flip the Bill campaign. And with that, that gives us the opportunity to support the greater community, right? So for those that are in the hospital and maybe their family needs some food, we're able to donate some money so that they can be able to get some food for the week. If you want to donate to On the Air Sickled, please go to support our PayPal at On the Air Sickled OD. You can give any monetary gift of any kind at that location. We are looking forward to growing with you and learning with you and advocating beside you. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to On the Air Sickled. Until next time, stay strong. Hey y'all, this is OD from On the Air Sickle. Have you been enjoying On the Air Sickle lately? Want to get your story on the air like these people? Check out our new On the Air Sickle website, where you can share your stories live on the air.